Oh. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for coming and offering your love to Bharat and Anandi. Thank you. I just wanted to welcome you. Other people will be doing that as well, but I wanted to sort of let you know what's going to happen this afternoon. And Vidura and I were talking earlier about the best flow, because I know some of you would like to speak, and that is exactly what this ceremony is set up to do, that any of you that would like to speak are going to be able to speak. And not only that, but because this is recorded, Bharat will have this forever. And I know that'll mean a lot to him to actually hear your stories over and over again, as he wishes to. I wanted to read one thing, and then I'm going to ask Jyotishan Devi to come up and lead us in a prayer. Until that time, we were thinking it might be nice so that we have a flow going, but it's also the community and relaxed, and we don't want it to be too formal. But if you would like to say something, to come up as, you know, you could either make a line, like we do at Festival of Light, or on the side, just to keep it going. Or you could just see that there's a lapse and come up and say what you would like to say. So we'll do it that way. And I wanted to start just by reading this letter that Anandi wrote to Jyotishan Devi. My heart has been at peace since the beginning. The love that has come our way through the community has been tremendous. My only wish is that I could get back to people, to share with them the love and gratitude I feel for each person. I hope they already know. So I think you know. I know Bharat's going to talk a little bit about that too, but it's so sweet just coming straight from Anandi to all of you. God bless you.
We too want to welcome all those who are not only here in the temple with us, but online. And I know that there are people joining from around the world.
So, everything that happens in the life of a spiritual community is a part of all of us. When a child is born, it's a celebration for all of us. When people take a next step in their life, we all are taking a next step. And when people leave the body, it's our own experience too, isn't it? And we were talking with a friend earlier today who doesn't live here, but a part of Ananda. And she said, don't you just feel like every time someone passes on, we all get a little closer to the astral world? And I said, I sure do. Not in a morbid way, but just the barriers, the reality of this physical world begin to diminish. So this is and I want to thank Durga and Bharat for creating this event. They put tremendous energy into it, and Vidura as well. So we'll begin with a prayer, and this is a celebration of Anandi.
Please stand, let's pray together. Heavenly Father, Divine Mother, friend, beloved God, Jesus Christ, Babaji Krishna, Lahiri Mahashaya, Swami Shri Yukteswar, beloved Guru, Paramahansa Yogananda Ji, saints of all religions, we humbly bow to you all. Beloved Master and Swamiji, we know that Anandi is with you now, surrounded by your light, infused with your light, and spreading it out throughout the whole universe. Bless her and all those who are connected to her by threads of love and friendship. Bless us with your grace, that we grow ever closer to each other, and more importantly, to the only consciousness in existence, our one beloved Father, Mother, God. Om. Peace. Amen. Please be seated. We'll have some music now. Well, you know, when a great soul like Anandi passes, she leaves behind a kind of an echo of her life that still lives on this planet. It lives in the hearts of all of those that she has touched through her life, none more so than those who are tuned in now, you know. I'm sure that everybody in this room and everybody watching has had some kind of a contact with Anandi that blessed them in some way. For many of us, there was a beautiful working relationship together. I know for Devi and me, there was the sense of when we worked with Anandi, the three of us just disappeared or melted together. And all that was left was a kind of unity of consciousness trying to accomplish whatever we were doing. In many cases, especially in the last decade or so, it was planning some program. Every spiritual renewal week, every inner renewal week, every event, the three of us, generally speaking, would be together. And as I say, the personalities disappeared, and it was just like the three of us were working together to try to be a channel for God to express through us what is trying to happen, as Swami so often said. So that was one relationship working. I know that many, many others have had that relationship with Anandi as she worked here. Many others have a relationship of friendship and of, I don't want to even call it counseling, but divine friendship where you just talk together, you bounce things off, you get almost like talking to your own higher self. That's what she represented for so many. And finally, I know I want to keep it short because there are many people who want to speak, and if anyone goes on too long, it'll squeeze out the possibilities for others to share. So I'll just end by saying, I think the thing that probably affected me most about Anandi was that there was hardly any Anandi there. It was really just a beautiful, particularized, but a beautiful aspect of God manifested in that form. And just trying to, as Swami said about what makes a window beautiful, is that you don't see the window, you just see the beauty of the garden that's outside. And that was what Anandi was. She was becoming more and more invisible, and more the view through her was beautiful.
Well, bear with me, because everyone else, I think, is going to be talking about Anandi. I'm going to do something a little different. I have my astral cell phone, and I'm calling her, and I'm going to be talking to Anandi. Hi, Anandi. We're so grateful for everything that we had together, and it brings us joy every minute thinking of you. But I know you're so responsible. I want you to make sure you know a lot of people are taking over what you did, Maria and Nanda Devi and the membership, and it's all going well. Don't worry about it. And Bharat, he's doing good, and people are really rallying around, and he'll be fine. I know you worry about how he'll keep going, but he'll be fine. So till next time, we love you, and I can't wait to see you again. Bye.
What a great joy it is to celebrate our dear sister Anandi, who manifested so many of the spiritual qualities that we all aspire to. She was, in fact, the embodiment of joy. She loved all and was loved by all. But more than anything, what struck me about her year after year is that I never once heard her speak in any way that had any judgment of anybody. She accepted every soul exactly as they are, so we could all feel whole and loved in her presence.
In 1981, I went to the meditation retreat to be the manager, and Anandi was there as the head teacher. And we got to be very good friends over the next couple years. And one thing that I can remember thinking about her all the time was, this is one happy person.
Each time I saw Anandi, her smiling eyes just radiated clarity and love. And there was just no question in my mind that Divine Mother had sent her as a messenger.
The first time I met Anandi, and every single time I met her since then, I was always touched by and impressed by how simple her expression was, how wise she was, and how incredibly compassionate she was.
She listened with complete attention with loving acceptance, with an uplifting quality that you felt you were talking to a divine friend.
Anandi realized that God is the only doer. This made her very happy and full of joy. She shared her joy with everyone and continues to do so as we speak. Isn't that beautiful?
Through her counsel and friendship, Anandi really taught me what it means to be present with another person and the transforming power of divine love and friendship that comes through that one-pointed, single, focused energy.
So when I think of Anandi, what comes to mind is encouragement, profoundly encouraging, always just offering a sense of strong, energetic support and belief in us, in me, and yeah, just a true divine friend.
The word that first comes to mind when I think of Anandi is joy. What I remember most about her every time she would walk into any room was just this enormous smile, which was contagious. That kind of joy, that kind of bliss just permeates the entire space. And it is a legacy that she will continue to carry every time we think of her.
It always seemed fitting to me that Anandi's name was the same as our community itself, because in so many ways as a founding member, she epitomized the spirit of what Swamiji came to do and what we came to help him do. And even though the impact of her departure is enormous on the lives of so many of us, at the same time, we have to rejoice and we have to say, well done, sister. If there was ever a life triumphant, it was the life of our dear sister Anandi. And we miss you, of course we do, but we also rejoice with you for victory on every level. A great devotee, and we're so grateful that you chose to incarnate at the same time we did, and we could share your wonderful life.
Well, I'm not going to talk to Anandi. I'm going to share Anandi's words with you for her week before she transitioned. And she met someone, a resident of the community, and he asked Anandi, how are you doing? And he says, well, I'm not getting any better. And this one of our residents said, well, I'm praying for you. And Anandi was very direct towards the end, but lovingly. But she said, well, pray harder, it's not working. But you know, at first we were praying for the healing of her physical body. And then we were praying for Anandi's inner freedom. And our prayers did work. You know, it was just 7 days before, she wrote in a letter to Jyotish and Devi, I don't know if I can complete this. It's just very hard. And she was in so much pain that she couldn't really think of Master. She talked to Master all the time. And she just asked him for help. And it was so beautiful to see all of you outside the house. People are coming when it's early in the morning, and in wintertime, and we quickly got some blankets so that people could have that, be warm while they were there with the vigil. And Anandi was tugging on Divine Mother, but so many of us were tugging along with Anandi. And I think that really helped in getting over the hurdles. She was a spiritual warrior, but she was so deeply moved and touched by all our prayers, and she wanted to respond in kind. But she wasn't able to. She has to do it from a higher plane now. And that's the beauty, isn't it, of spiritual community, is that we all give our hearts to each other. We're really this experience of oneness and love that we have together. I would like to read, Jean McGregor sent this in to be read, and it's some words by Helen Keller. She said that these following words by Keller describe Anandi's connections with and profound effect on so many of us. Those are red letter days in our lives when we meet people who thrill us like a fine poem, people whose handshake is brimful of unspoken sympathy, and whose sweet, rich natures impact to our eager spirit with a wonderful restfulness which is divine. We wake to see with new eyes and to hear with new ears the beauty and harmony of God's real world. Helen Keller, thank you.
So I'd like to ask anyone that would like to speak to come up now. And some of you I gave letters to that people sent to me by email. They weren't able to be here or they didn't want to get up and speak themselves. So any of you that would like to come, I'm just going to invite you up. If you want to create a line, go ahead and do it. If you want to just get up as you will, that's fine too. I also, oh, I'm not supposed to wear this. So I also wanted to say that we have an altar over here for Anandi. Bharat has kept the cloth that was over her body. And so that's there. And there's also rose petals from that day. Many of you put rose petals on her. And so they're packaged up, and everyone that hasn't already gotten rose petals may take one, because otherwise there won't be enough for everyone. So please feel free to go over there and either just get petals, or you can stay and pray and meditate for a little while. And let's see, I have one more thing, but I'm going to wait and let you come up first. Okay? So Giovanni, you want to start?
Hello. I had a rather unusual experience a few days before Anandi had departed. I think it was the day after we got the news that her cancer was much more serious and final than we originally thought. And I felt a deep loss and sadness, as we all did. Well, I don't need to say how incredible she was. She was pure joy. So one morning I went to the bench that was set up outside your house, Bharat, and took advantage of the blankets because it was cold. It was about 5 in the morning, I think, and it was dark. And on my way over, the Gayatri Mantra just started up in my head, and that's a whole other conversation I had with Anandi and how much we loved doing it. And by the time I got to the bench, it was going, and I just settled into it and got to a very deep place. And so this is what happened. This morning I went to meditate in front of her house on one of the benches at her shrine. The Gayatri Mantra started up in my head on my walk over, and I continued as I sat down. After about 30 minutes, I felt very inward and still. Suddenly, in my mind's eye, I saw Anandi standing in front of me, and with her big, vibrant smile, she said, "Hello," just like she always does. And she was in her robes, and I greeted her back as if it was just perfectly normal. And she sat next to me, and it was all just very real and natural, and we just sat there in the silence for a long time. And then I asked her, I said, "What's it like dying?" And she said, "It's like letting your battery run out. I like to come out here and sit with everyone. It's very sweet. I'm very touched by everyone's love." And there was a pause, and she looked at me, she looked over at me, we were sitting side by side, and she said, "You know I'll always be around, like the others, helping everyone." And then she turned to me and said, "You'll be helping everyone here too." And then we sat for a while more, and the sun was rising, and I felt my soul expand with her. We just expanded way, way out, right up to the gates of the astral realm. And I could just feel so much joy and gratitude. And on top of that, the sadness of not being able to say goodbye to her physically was gone. I was just so happy for her, and I knew she was going to be leaving very, very soon. So that's why I wanted to share it with you all, because I think this was for all of us. We're all going to be doing this for each other. Thank you.
Hi. Durga gave me a couple of short letters from 2 disciples in Seattle that would like to just let us know their experiences. This is from Nayaswami Karen Sherman. "I had the honor of getting to know Anandi during my monastic training program in 1991. After that profound experience, I did not really have much opportunity to spend time with her. However, I prayed for her regularly at the end of her life. After her passing, I was amazed and delighted to experience her strong presence in my meditations for several weeks. It was a strong and embodied experience of how the soul is indestructible and brought great understanding that Anandi is now swimming in God." And this is from Nayaswami Lajana. "When I came to Ananda for the first time in 1992, I learned how important affirmations are on the spiritual path from Anandi. Whatever my problem, every time I called her, she had just the perfect one for my situation at the time. I still love affirmations."
Hi. I received 3 emails here from friends of Anandi, various places. This first one is from Roberto and Rita, our Concord meditation group leaders. And I love this story because it shows Anandi's humor and her very straightforwardness. "Years ago, SRW was offered towards the end of August. At that time, both our daughter and I taught in a public high school, which also started at the end of August. Each year, we did not know if the dates would overlap and whether or not we would be able to participate at SRW. With anticipation, we would wait and see if there was a conflict. Every year, our daughter would pray to Lahiri so we could come to SRW. Then one year, on the last day of SRW, we got to chat with Anandi. During our conversation, we shared with her our yearly dilemma with the possible overlapping dates of SRW and then reopening of the school year. I asked her if it was at all possible to reschedule SRW earlier in the month or if this was a set date. She informed me she did not know, but she would look into it. Jyotish and Devi were leaving the next day to go to Italy, and so we were to wait. No problem, we were hopeful. Not long after we returned home, we received a phone call from Anandi letting us know that Jyotish and Devi had called her, and during their conversation, they told her that the following year, SRW would be at the beginning of August. What makes me smile from this story are her words at the end of our conversation. Anandi said to us, "It seems that Divine Mother heard your request, so you better be here." We laughed, and that ended our memorable conversation. We have been blessed to have known her and shared some very precious moments with her, Rita and Roberto. And then another brief one from Kalamali, who's in Australia currently. Nayaswami Anandi was a true friend. She always picked you up and listened with her entire being when you needed it. She is an angel who will be truly missed. She has left behind so many treasures of wisdom through her attunement to Master and to Swami as a living example of discipleship. We will miss her spirit on earth and look forward to attuning to it in the astral world for inspiration when one needs to be a friend or simply have a friend near. And this last one from Dinanath. I asked Anandi to be my Kriya coach some years ago, and that proved full of blessings, not so much in what she said, but in the energy and intention and grace that the exchange opened up, opening whole new levels in my practice. Jai Anandi. She always called me Dino. No one else did, and I'm glad. But from her, it felt sweet and affectionate. In all the discussion about her, I didn't hear much about a quality I always noticed in these later years: dispassion. There was a part of her that was always somewhat removed. On several occasions, I expressed my sincere thanks and appreciation for the work she had done on one or another of the Yogananda series books. She always replied almost with a non-reply, clearly indicating she didn't feel any sense of taking any credit for it. She did such a good job, but didn't identify personally with any sense of being important to the outcome. I hold her with such gratitude for so many years. Of kindness and the sort of friendship that was just a given, despite distance and years apart.
This letter is from Duty, who currently resides in Assisi. Dear Anandi, your smile, your kind and compassionate nature, the joy that emanates from your soul, your radiance, attunement, wisdom, divine love. This is the energy and the qualities that are emblazoned in my heart whenever I think of you. I remember the first time I met you. It was at the meditation retreat, May 1978, and I had finally just arrived to live at Ananda. We did not know each other, but because we felt we had met before, you casually said, maybe we met in another lifetime. This was one of my first conversations after I arrived at Ananda, and I remember being touched by how natural and easy it was to talk about spiritual things, just a part of everyday life. I am so grateful that our lives touched, even for a few brief moments, in this vast sea of lifetimes. Go with love, dear one. May the light that is in you expand and touch everyone. And may we be one in that light someday.
Well, everyone, I'm Preeta, and when I first came to the village, I was a house cleaner for about 7 years. And during that time, I had many, many clients. And I'm saying that because that's how I got to really know Anandi. She would write me a sweet note most weeks and tell me, get this corner, can you do this, can you do that? And we had an agreement that it was boring sometimes to be a house cleaner with invisible dust. So she had to give me things to do, like maybe polish the silver or get a smudge on a window or find a moth and things like that I really enjoyed. But one day, she was there at the house when I came to clean, and I said hi, and she said hi, and she said, Margaret was my name then. She said, Margaret, I have something and I don't know if you will want it. And she brought me something from her house that I had cleaned many times and I really liked. This blue duck. Now this is not just any blue duck, because if you notice, it's a very intelligent looking duck. It's a very nice duck, and it was really nice when I would clean it, and I would always visit with it. But she couldn't have known that because she wasn't at home. So I asked her, I wanted it so much, but I couldn't take it from Anandi. So I said, well, why don't you want it? It's wonderful. This is a wonderful duck. And she was trying to be polite, and she said, well, we're just getting rid of a few things around. And I thought to myself, there's lots of things in this house that I could suggest to get rid of rather than this duck. But I didn't say that, luckily. So I said, Anandi, are you sure? Because this is pretty special, And then at that moment, she did this. And that means that she was really looking at me at that moment. It was no longer social. And I said, are you sure, Anandi? And she said, yes. We can't keep everything we love.
This is a little note from Nityananda. I just want to say that Ananda people don't come any finer than Anandi. She's a friend to all, and being Anandi's friend is a very great blessing for which I am most grateful. I love you, Anandi. Blessings, Nityananda. I also just wanted to respond personally, having gotten the blessing of knowing Anandi for so many years. And I know it was no accident that Swami picked out that name for her, Anandi, and that I was thinking if somebody had asked me, what is Ananda? I would have said, well, you could read a book, you could listen to a lecture, or you could spend 5 minutes with Anandi.
So my name's also Anandi, and my name's also Anandi, and my very good buddy Charles Evans often referred to in front of me. He referred to Anandi Cornell as the good one. This is a message from Mangala. Anandi was a pure channel of Masters and Divine Mother's joy, love, and inspiration. She has guided me for the past 35 years since I moved to Ananda village, showing me how to live life as a dedicated disciple. I pray that I'll be able to continue to feel her inspirational and loving guidance as I seek to live ever more deeply for God alone, as she so beautifully lived her life. Go with love, dear Anandi.
So I've been here almost 20 years now, which is sometimes hard to believe. It's gone by so fast. And I didn't know Anandi in a deep way. Well, I did know her in a deep way, but not in the way that some of you, many of you who were here from the beginning with her, like, you know, there's the core group that I can really always feel and get fed from, that have been here together, really growing this, cultivating this, and growing this. And so I didn't work with her. I didn't ever have like time where I was with her a lot. I did have one very profound experience with her, and that I will never forget. And really every time that I was with her was like that. But this was profoundly deep in this lifetime for me. It was really like a crux of, she just said, what if in this lifetime it's just about you making it through? Just, you know, it was like I was struggling with something that I've struggled with my whole life, and she was just like, what if it's just about, you don't have to be the best disciple, you don't have to be the best mom, you don't have to be a wife, you don't have to anything, you just get through this lifetime. You just do it. And that was really profound for me. And I had the blessing of meditating the day before she passed down. And it's interesting because the whole time I felt like she was I felt her presence like I do right now, so strongly, that even though I couldn't go because I was with my daughter or this or that, I felt like I was with her and she was with me, and that I just felt the connection of all of us that is never separate. But I really wanted to go because I know how powerful it is to meditate when the veils are really thin. I worked for hospice. I started my journey with people with the dying over 20 years ago with my mom, and then I worked for hospice here. So I've seen a lot of people. It's been my honor to see a lot of people in this last part of their lives. And I knew, I was like, okay, I've got to make this. It doesn't matter if it's 5 minutes. It doesn't matter what it is. I'm going to go sit. And I was walking down, and Diksha was walking back up. And again, it was like, it was so palpable. Diksha, what she said to me was just, and I could see, it seemed to me, and I don't know if this is it, but that she was really shaken to her core on the personal level of loss. And I was there at this amazing moment to be blessed by what she shared with me. And then I went down and I sat, and it was beautiful. And then the next day was Sunday, I think, and I heard she had passed. And so I went over, and I'll never forget it, because like I said, I've seen a lot of people and been with a lot of people, including both my parents, who have died, and in those last hours and moments and after. And a couple things. So I walked down the road, and as I got to where everyone was going in, where it was open, I looked, and you see her right away, where she was laid out. And I saw her, and she took my breath away. It was like the joy and the beauty is not of this world. And she was just like radiating like the sun and glowing. And it literally I had to stop and breathe and like just let that joy expand throughout my body. And then I walk down and, try to see what's happening. What are people doing? You want to be appropriate. But I couldn't think of that. All I could think was that I wanted to be near her, and So I waited till there was a spot, and I went and I sat down, and I touched her. I wanted to kiss her, honestly, on her forehead, and I didn't, but I did touch her. And I did notice too, is for all the suffering that I had heard, because I didn't see that she had been through and how sick she was, she really looked like Anandi still. And I was kind of shocked with that, because again, with a lot, most, if not all of death I've seen, they're very changed in the end. They're a little bit ravaged, the body on the physical plane. And she was just magnificent. Like, I wanted to stay there all day. I did not want to leave. But, I had to move on. And so I stayed there for a while, and it was just like being with my mother. It was just so much love, and that was it. It was like she gave that as a sister, as a mother, as a devotee, as a guru bhai. I think she gave, I know, and we all know, she gave that to each of us, that personal and that impersonal. And then I walked, and I had to talk to Bharat. And he was talking to Diksha and Gyandev. And so I waited, and it's not like I know Bharat on the surface that well. But really, what does that matter? So I waited, and I went up, and I was just like, I just have to tell you, she's so beautiful, And then he started sharing, and he shared that the night before, when everybody that was taking care of him said, you need to get some sleep, you need to get some sleep. And they could see on the way out. And he said that her jaw was opened and kind of, a little bit locked, a little bit askewed. And that's the one thing I noticed when I said, because that's often what you see in the end, and they can't close it once they die. So I was just, that he said that, and he said, and then this morning I went and saw her, and she was perfectly like that. And it really reminds me of Master, and how when the body is untouched by death, and it was to see everybody sitting around, and not even see so much, but to feel the power of this community, and that, like you said, Giovanni, we're all doing this for each other and together. And it doesn't matter, that I didn't have I never had her over for dinner. I feel for those who had that very personal, that would make it even harder. But I just want to say thank you to Master, to Swamiji, and to everyone here, because that I'm a part of this incredible, it's like the aspen, the roots of the aspen that are all connected, that I have this from other lifetimes that we've lived together, and because of the seeds that you all planted 50 years ago. And what a blessing it is to be a part of that root system in God. Thank you.
In a few days, Anandi and I share a very special day. That's April 2nd, because we were both born on the same day. But as we often joke, different years. This is, Durga asked me to read some excerpt of a letter that I wrote to our Sharing Nature coordinators and friends and representatives throughout the world. Anandi led an extremely victorious life. Here at Ananda Village, she was a constant support throughout the community. Her calmness, clarity, and deep wisdom helped thousands of people. The support and deep friendship she gave to people was enormous. As of today, Joseph has received nearly, well, at the time it was 700 emails, but now it's over 1,000, from friends throughout Ananda in the Sharing Nature world, sharing their love for Anandi. The role she played in sharing nature cannot be understated as well. She was right next to Joseph throughout his entire sharing nature journey, and especially these past 11 years, where, as you may know, Joseph has had his own health challenges. In the acknowledgments to his latest book, Flow Learning, Joseph writes, "I would like to credit my wife Anandi for her invaluable advice and contribution to every stage of the book. Her commitment to knowledge of flow learning and her editorial expertise has been priceless." I really think, just as I'm a Beatles fan, and just as the songs were credited to Lennon and McCartney, it should be, the Sharing Nature work that's around the world should be Bharat and Anandi. And then just a little, this is a letter I wrote to Anandi, a few excerpts after we knew that she was going to be passing. "Anandi, you have no idea how much you mean to me. Yes, I'm speaking of myself here, but I think also on behalf of everyone whose souls you have come in contact with in this life. Your clarity, warmth, caring nature, and devotion to this path has inspired so many people to go deeper in God. I've often found myself trying to say things as you would say them, with clarity and simplicity. I found you've mastered the art of making the teaching so simple and approachable. You really have such a gift for doing this. After your classes, people just leave saying, 'Of course, I always knew that.' Well, there are so many people here that have touched my life deeply. Your exemplary life has clarified and deepened my dedication to this path more than anyone probably here. Since coming to Ananda 15 years ago, I've never really known exactly what my life, my Dharma was supposed to be. Yes, sharing nature will be a part of my life. But just as some people say, I feel like I'm supposed to do this or do that, I've never really known what my Dharma is. I just knew right from the start that this was my path, and my whole life was dedicated to sharing Master's vibration. But in these last few weeks, as I've reflected on your life, I've been gaining a little bit more clarity of my purpose. It is to be fully present with every person that crosses my path, to really listen to them, to ask Master to be with them, to really care for them and try to shine Master's light in their lives. I know this because this is what you do and have always done. The impact you've made for Master's mission is beyond words.
I just want to share a little story about a couple weeks before she passed. People here in the village know about the meal train and preparing Bharat and Anandi meals, and it's a real testimony for me personally, because I've often pondered how could I reciprocate such love and appreciation for somebody like Anandi and her friendship, because she just gave it so abundantly and so freely. And one day we were preparing a meal, and we had very specific instructions, gluten-free pasta, which personally isn't my favorite. And I would be cooking it for her. And the phone rang. And we picked it up, and Anandi was on the phone. "You haven't started cooking yet, have you?" I said, "Oh yeah, we'll be there in 10 minutes. She's like, "But can you make me something else?" It's like, "Absolutely. We'll stop everything." And you know what she requested? Pancakes. Absolutely, Anandi. If I can just reciprocate even a little of the sweetness you have offered so many of us, it's the least we can do. But she also specified not just pancakes. Remember those silver dollar pancakes you got when you were a kid? I want those. And so it taught me about the childlike simplicity that the devotee should embrace this life with, coming from the heart, sharing joy freely. And I'll miss her dearly. but she's with us, as we all know.
So, Anandi, just as Shushanti so beautifully reminded me of that day when she passed, tears were impossible. I could not cry. It was like there was this felt like an upward magnet in my heart that was so strong that it was literally impossible to start crying. So thank you for reminding me of that, because I've been struggling to not cry today. So I'm trying to remember that. And, Anandi was like a spiritual hero in many ways to me. I always thought of her that way. And when the pandemic happened and the Expanding Light closed, she was looking for a different way to serve. I don't know if it was strictly because of that or a change in her service, but she called me one day and said, I'd love to help in the Kriya Sangha. And I'm like, you're kidding, of course. That would be an incredible gift. And so the last couple of years of her life, she served with me in the Kriya Sangha, helping to teach preparation for Kriya Yoga. And it's like an explosion online with Kriya training right now. It's still continuing to be an explosion. It's really remarkable. And so I'm watching Anandi work with all of these different people, because we have forums where people are asking questions and she's answering these questions and working with each person. I was answering, we were both answering together, and we would talk on the phone almost every day for 2 years. And I never, in that whole time, I remember telling Vishnu this, not once did any conversation, in all those conversations, did it ever descend below just the highest, super consciousness. Never once. And, normally in normal relationships it does. People are, you're working with so many different people, and it's easy to start, or to do that at least once. Never happened. She taught me a lot in sorry. Also, I wanted to say, what I really wanted to come up here and say is that this morning I was meditating. I was in meditation, and she came. Her energy was there. I felt her. And it was unmistakable. It was there. And I felt, and this word came into my mind, gold miner. And I was like, well, that's interesting. It's like we live, in gold country. She was a gold miner. She really was. With the most difficult situation, when we're working online with so many different people all over the world in very varying ways, varying understandings of what the spiritual path is and what Kriya Yoga is and what it means to be spiritual, she would always find that vein of gold in the situation, in the person. And she would track it, and she always saw it, and she helped you see it. She helped the person she was relating to see it. And it was really beautiful to watch. I've kept her responses to some of the most difficult questions you can imagine. They're difficult for me, just of the spiritual life and the meaning of things, and how do I relate, and how do I deal with this kind of situation. She answered, just always picking it up by the very highest, and in full ways, never short, just these complete answers. And she always helped me to understand how to do that, or she gave me that. When we would talk every day, that's what we would be talking about. This is happening, what do you think? How should I answer? And she would help me see the gold. And I'm just really grateful. Sorry.
Durga asked if I could share a experience. I'm going to call it the deer story. And it happened the morning of Anandi's passing. And so I heard the message. It's about 5 o'clock in the morning, and I thought, I'm just gonna go on a walk. So, took a walk, and I thought, I'm not gonna go sit on the bench. I'm not gonna go sit on the bench at Anandi's house. I'm just gonna go on a walk. So, I'm walking. And I'm walking towards the bench. And I sit, it's pretty cold. So I thought, I'm not gonna sit on the bench. So I sit on the bench. And I cover myself with blankets. And then, so I was sitting there by myself. And there were 2 benches. So I was in the back bench, and there was a front bench, and so there was cozy. Then I'm meditating, and I hear crunch, 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 like somebody's walking, just walking, and I thought, oh, somebody else is going to meditate. This is good. Crunch, crunch, crunch. It's getting closer, and I thought, good, they're gonna sit in the bench in front of me. It just gets closer. Crunch, crunch, crunch. Oh, it must be somebody I know, because they're gonna sit next to me. And then it stops. And it was almost like somebody thinking about sitting next to me. So I open my eyes, and there's this doe, and the face is right here. And I just stared, and she stared, and then I thought, I'm just gonna stare. And she just stares, and she's so pretty. And then she turns to walk away. She walks, and she looks back, and I look at her, and then she leaves. So I thought, wow. Then I meditated, and it's great. Then I thought, this story is for Bharat. So I told Bharat, and Bharat told Durga, and Durga told me to tell you.
Anandi was my spiritual advisor, and I was very touched that she kind of chose me for that. And I had 2 little stories to share with you that kind of come to epitomize how she helped me. And one was the last time we were able to go for a walk, and we walked around the circle that goes back to the market, just to update her on everything that was sort of coming through. And I happened to have with me in the car the little soul of Pup Pup, my dog, and it just occurred to me, well, can Pup Pup walk with us? And not really thinking much about it, but that he would be really joyful to come on that walk. And she said, well, yeah, sure, he's not an annoying dog, right? Or something like she restrained herself. And I said, no, he'll be fine. And I didn't expect her to pay any attention to Pup Pup at all. You know, it was just the two of us talking. And as we walked along and did this and that, and we saw the people who run the farm, started the farm at Camino Island, and they had their dog there. And Pup Pup and their dog played a bit, and then I called them back because they were going to go too far. And she was just commented on how responsive he was. And then we stood in front of near the market, and we were finishing our conversation, and he sat quietly and watched everyone, and she was just, he's so tuned in to everything that's going on. Yeah, well, I knew that about him, but I was so amazed, so touched that she was tuning in to my dog. I thought, gosh, if I had picked something to annoy an original member of Ananda, that was it. And I hadn't thought too much about it, but instead, she just really saw him. He is a really great little being, and I thought, that was such a gift, not just to him, but to me. And also when I was cooking for her, as she was finishing her time, and brought really Japanese food, so I was making sushi for them and things like that. And she emailed me personally to tell me that she liked the sushi twice. And I just felt so touched that she was still about serving me. And I just always felt like a child of God with Anandi. And that helps me to become devotional. So thank you.
So this is pretty much unplanned. I didn't think I had anything to share, but she was also my spiritual advisor for part-time duty with Jaya. When Jaya was in India, I was supposed to be in touch with her. And there were a few projects in which I had to work closely with her. And before I share about that, I just want to say whenever she was teaching, I have always felt the way one teaches, the way one shares, is a natural expression of how one is and how one thinks. And so I was always impressed with the way she shared, because she put herself in a student mode and she pointed out to lessons that she learned. I remember when she was talking about Hong Sau, she would say she was at Ananda village for 2 years, and then they were gardening together with Devi, and Devi comes and says, finally, I learned, today I observed my breath. And Anandi says, I realized at that point I had forgotten completely that in Hong Sau, we are supposed to observe our breath. But the natural way she shared by herself being the student, I remember she shared something about the Om technique, and the way she started that sharing was, it's very hard for me to practice the Om technique. It doesn't come easy, and this helps me. And the first time I was meeting her at the Expanding Light, she said, marriage was a big lesson for me because I realized I am responsible for my happiness. And just the way she always shared about her experiences made me realize that this is how she lived. It was not from her ego, but from wanting to learn, wanting to share. And I was always impressed with that. The second thing I wanted to share about her was, I was very, very impressed by those who prepared Anandi's body for viewing on that Sunday, because it really was astral, as a few people have remarked, so I'm very grateful for that. And it reminded me of something I read in Durga Mata's book. the other Durga. And she said when Rajarshi was having brain tumor and he was being operated on, she would sometimes go to the hospital and the nurses there would say, oh, he's an angel. And she would ask them, well, you don't even know him. What makes you say that? He hardly says anything, he can't speak. You always know when somebody, loses body consciousness by the expression on their face. And so they had to give him either anesthesia or he was in deep sleep. And by the natural expressions, the nurses knew he was an angel. And I felt, I knew Anandi, of course, but just the expression she had on her face. And this last thing is interesting because it relates to Anandi's work as an editor. And I had to work with her and other people to come up with these FAQs, frequently asked questions, because as our outreach has grown, so have the number of people who have questions about the lawsuits Ananda faced, including the sexual harassment lawsuit that was, Ananda and Swami had to face in the 90s. And so we decided we wanted to come up with this list of question answers which clarify to people what exactly happened. And so we were going back and forth like at least 50 times or 100 times, refining it, making it factually correct, bringing Swami's own words, and making sure everybody who was there, who were deeply in tune with Swami, felt it conveyed the right thing in a way that the new people like us could express and could share. But while working with Anandi on this, she never lost, she always remembered to also present it with the right English. And I have here an email exchange which I want to share with her because it resonates with her name, which was Anandi. And we had to talk about quite a few fine things like how many women were there, what happened, what were the exact things we were accused of. Very intricate also. But then we wanted to share these with our graduates. And I had created an email that I said, okay, let's send this email out to the graduates. And Anandi's response was very interesting. She says, this is great. In terms of correct writing, this sentence should be changed. And this is the sentence, and I want to read it to you because some of the examples that follow are based on what she explains about this sentence. And so the sentence was, as a past graduate of the Lessons in Meditation course, we wish to share these new resources with you as well. And she says, this is a classic case of dangling modifiers. Because as a past graduate of Lessons in Meditation course, you should then start with the part of the sentence that refers to that graduate. So I had started this sentence as a past graduate of the Lessons in Meditation course. We wish to share these resources with you as well, that we can't be there. So she said it has to, you are receiving these resources, let's say. And then the back and forth brought up many funny examples of what dangling modifiers can do. And here are a few which we went over. Being in a dilapidated condition, I was able to buy the house very cheap. Here's two more. I know a man with a wooden leg called Smith. What was the name of his other leg? One morning, I shot an elephant in my pajamas. How he got into my pajamas, I'll never know. And then she ends with, Lakshman edited one of Netri's books about cooking. And she had said, studded with raisins, I brought the fruit cake into the dining room. So anyway, thank you.
I appreciated what Deva Leela said about Anandi's being a gold miner. It was a very apt characterization. She mined for the gold in each of us, for the gold within herself, and she gave those nuggets back to everyone. And I was surprised that nobody else had mentioned this, and so I wanted to, because I expect I'm probably speaking for many. she sent me the most beautiful notes that I have ever received from anybody, just about the most everyday things, whether it was a birthday note or a thank you for this or that. And you really felt that she was handing back to you a little golden nugget of what she had seen in you.
This is just a very short story with Anandi. Like Jyotish said at the beginning, I had mainly work relation experiences with Anandi, emails, meetings, but there was one time, this was about 6, maybe 7 years ago, I wanted to talk to her because I had this ongoing thought in my mind that, I don't know why, but that God didn't love me. And I knew that God loves everyone, but I thought that I was kind of the cosmic exception. And so it was really bothering me so much that I decided to talk to somebody, and Anandi kept coming to mind. So I went and talked to her. And among other things that she said, one thing is, she said, I had that thought too for a long time. And I was shocked because, Anandi is Anandi. How can she possibly think that God doesn't love her? And then she told me that these thoughts come from ego, they come from Satan, and we have to try to really counteract them with thoughts that we know are real thoughts, with I'm a child of God, I'm a child of the light, and so this is what I did. But in looking back, that really helped me a lot, but what helped me the most for me was, I can see that it's a delusion, because Anandi, who is so, in my mind, she was so close to God. If she thought that must definitely be a delusion. And then, a couple of days before she passed, like many others here, we went and meditated outside of her house. And I remember having this deep feeling of the presence of the masters. It's like the masters were all congregated there, and they were really helping her, supporting her. And that just, it was obvious. That was the proof to me that, of course, because God loves her so much, and all his masters, all his saints are there helping her. So this was my probably only time really talking with Anandi about something that wasn't work, and it was a real gem. So thank you, Anandi.
I want to tell you one story. Anandi and I worked together. I got to work with Anandi when I first got to the village, and we worked on the master plan, 74, 75. And again, when I was in Ananda Recordings, we worked on a project for the 14 Steps, it was called. And she listened to all of Swami's talks, and she made notes. And then she decided from each step what the recordings would be associated with that. It was like, I think probably the first time she did compiling of Swami's talks for certain topics. But the story shows her sense of humor, a particular side of her sense of humor. She told me one time that she found out that there was a phone number, and you dial a phone number and you reach a company. It might have been an architecture firm, maybe. And they say, if you want to talk to the sales representative, press 1. If you're another architect, press 2. If you want a job here, press 3. But the one that she liked was, if you want to hear a duck quack, press 6. And you press 6, and it goes, quack. She really loved that.
This is something from Nalini, who wasn't able to be here. Before Anandi's passing, someone suggested that we search our memories for inspiration we received from her, perhaps in a class or Sunday service. My goodness, I can honestly say that I've never heard a talk by Anandi that I didn't find uplifting, quite a testimony in itself. A few miscellaneous memories. Our friendship began in the 70s with Ananda Publications and Producing the Path, Swamiji's autobiography. In the 80s, we worked together on the KVMR Ananda radio program, a precursor to Radio Ananda. With Anandi's passing, I've come to realize what a profound impact she has had on my life, inwardly by her attitude and example, and outwardly by encouraging me to write the Transitioning in Grace book, which has turned out to be the spiritual highlight of my life so far. I remember the conversation when Anandi asked me to write the transitioning book, saying she just didn't feel it was her dharma. She handed me a box with the materials she had collected so far, sort of a starter kit. I think by then I had already written the article about Vairagi's passing, so there was evidence of my interest. But most of all was Swamiji's encouragement that I write about death and the final exam. Anandi, though, wrote the loving and thought-provoking article and chapter on Hanal, and she also gave many excellent classes on the subject, which I still often refer to her class notes. For all that you are, for all that you've done, for the important role you have played in my life, for your beautiful soul qualities and joy, thank you from my heart, in Master's love, Nalini. You know, I didn't come, my name's Susan, I didn't think to really say anything, but I just want to kind of echo what I think many of us must be feeling, that somehow Anandi had the rare quality to make, as Sagar alluded to, make us all feel that it was okay, that she shared the same struggles that we did, and that through the window that she provided, we knew that we could do it as well. And there was such encouragement from her. I know you can see out here a few people who were in her Gita satsang group, which for me has been one of the treasures of my spiritual life, where we'd take something that seemed like it could be so, not arcane, but difficult to plumb and find something really practical to do. And yet each chapter, as we discussed it and she pulled things out, we'd find things that just applied to our lives and were so encouraging, so hopeful. And I think many of us will treasure that one special satsang that we had with her, where I forget what the chapter was. It was a deep chapter, and we started off with a meditation, and we just never stopped. The meditation was so deep, and that she led us in, and so beautiful. And that's one of the things that I remember about her. So thank you. And thank you, Anandi.
Okay, thank you all. I have one last reading that I would like to read, but as people were talking, as I was putting together the posters on the outside, I was so struck with how much Anandi did. The variety of things, the books, the counseling, the classes, the joy, the friendships, the walks. I mean, everybody seemed to walk with Anandi. Where did she get all this time? And then I was thinking, because Master kept flowing through her, and she knew that, and that was the only way she could have gotten as much done as she did, with such joy and non-attachment. She was a great, great help to me at many times. Dear Bharat, this is from Dayanand. On the day of Anandi's passing, I prayed for her spirit. As I did so, I didn't feel a direct connection with her at that time, and I think that was because her spirit was transitioning. But the next day, I felt her spirit visit me very strongly. I hadn't been thinking about her. It just came out of the blue. And it was very sweet and light, like Anandi, but so much more. And she sent me something else important at that time that I thought you should know. In the 1980s, when I was in Sorrento, Italy, a friend told me he was going to visit the Catholic stigmatist Natuzza, the one who recommended that Swami and Rosanna marry. I sent Natuzza a message, and when my friend returned days later with her answer, for hours that day I smelled roses in the room. I thought maybe someone was wearing a strong cologne, but my friend told me after I'd smelled that Natuzza sometimes sent people a blessing called the odor of sanctity. Padre Pio used to send the same sweet odor. Well, when I felt Anandi's presence the day after her passing again, I smelled roses. I thought maybe my wife was burning incense, as the smell was strong and kept growing stronger so that it was almost overpowering. But Vani, his wife, told me she hadn't burned incense, and the fragrance stayed with me wherever I went that day, for hours that day, filling my nasal passages. It wasn't a physical aroma, it was an astral one. And all that time, I felt Anandi's presence, too. I was so moved and touched that she would visit me and bless me like that. We never spent a lot of time together, yet I felt very close to her. In Master and Swami Dayanand. So I just want to thank everyone again. We do have one final video from our centers in India, Assisi, and LA. But before we show it, I want to remind you again, if you'd like some rose petals, they're over here. And we'll stay as long as anyone wants to look at the photos outside. I want to thank Jyotish and Devi for leading this. I want to thank Barbara for all her help with the photographs, for Bharat's help, and you've stayed so strong. Bless you. Shraddha for this gorgeous altar. Tim and Lisa for all their help setting up, and many, many others of you. So, hello, Fred. Oops, thank you. Thank you very much, and now I'll have the video.
Hello, friends. I'd like to share a story about Nayaswami Anandi. When we were first in Italy, starting to work there at Lake Como, we were new, we didn't know the language, we didn't know people. We were freezing cold as well. It was a challenging time, to say the least. There were several of us there, including Jyotish and Deviji. They had just sent their son back to Ananda village. He was maybe 8 years old, Kalidasa, Mark. And I remember it was our very first Christmas. It was very expensive to call from America to Italy. There was no Zoom then, or internet, or any of the things that we have today, of Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and WhatsApp and all of that. None of that happened then. But one of the people who called us, who kept in touch, was Nayaswami Anandi. She called at Christmas time to wish us Happy Christmas. And she talked with Devi, then she talked with me. And I think she sensed that something wasn't quite right, that we were kind of sad and being challenged and all. And we had all these people who had come from Europe, all around Europe, for Christmas. And I don't know what Anandi did, but she must have gotten into gear, and she must have called around the community, because then the phone started ringing, and I remember Parvati called, Nayaswami Parvati, then I remember Swamiji called, and how are you? He said, and he uplifted our spirits, and various other people called, and they were sending presents. And I remember we had a mailbox with just a picture of Master at the back of the box, because we never got any mail, and mail started coming and everything. And we were able to go out also and really serve in a more positive, joyful way at that Christmas for those people who had come. And finally, also, Nayaswami Anandi and Nayaswami Bharat, they were able to and so graciously gave us, everybody there, a comforter, a warm comforter. We were, for our beds, we were in the coldest winter in 60 years in Europe there. And that just really touched our hearts. And so at that pivotal time, Anandi came forward and called us and changed the energy, and we were able to continue on with our seva at Ananda in Italy. Thank you.
We wanted to share some thoughts and remembrances about Nayaswami Anandi. I remember Dharma Devi and I were leading a first-timers retreat at the Expanding Light many years ago. And Anandi was so sweet. She was so supportive and loving to us. And she offered some feedback after the class that we gave. And she said to me, she said, "Narayan, you did a very nice job." She said, "Just one thing, I think you want to work on your Sanskrit." And she said, "It's Patanjali, not Pantanjalia." And I had watched so much of The Godfather growing up that I had said Pantanjalia instead of Patanjali. And I'm ever grateful to Anandi for her love and her joy. When you're with someone that truly loves you and truly accepts you, then you can relax and be yourself. And I think that's what we all felt in her presence. And to close, we wanted to share a poem that we dedicated to Anandi, called Anandi. You hold the space for our authentic self to race towards our common beloved's faceless face. A face like yours, kindly kind, her smile sublime. O Mother Divine, I behold in your accepting rays. Your unconditional gaze, your perennial smile shines as a golden memory mine, singing, "Beloved, be thou mine." May we all be as you are now and always, Anandi.
We love you, Anandi.
A creative speaker.
A joyful, magnetic teacher.
Heart and mind, friendship divine.
Delightful sense of humor.
A friend and guide, but mostly a kindred spirit.
Generosity of spirit and an amazing laugh.
Just for LaJona and myself, a most loving person.
I shared at Sunday's service about Anandi today, a story of when we were in our 20s, relatively new to Ananda in the early 70s. We were in the bathhouse at the old retreat, and Anandi said to me while washing her face, "Padma, if you catch me playing bridge when we get old, shoot me." And it was, of course, funny, but I knew also what she meant. She was planting her spiritual footprint, as we all were in those days, planting it in this life, to live a life for God alone. Anandi, you made it to the finish line, and we're all with you in spirit. Blessings and love.
My experience that I want to share with all of you, I think represents something that so many of you who know Anandi, and perhaps only met her once, can definitely relate to. Anandi's sharing with people, her contact with people, was something that I think always brought guidance, because she deeply cared about people, and so she would, everything she could do to help in any situation she would do. And so all of the wisdom that she had from her service, from her teaching, would go directly to what someone's need was. And the moment that was most meaningful for me in my life, where Anandi was a channel for something that I needed right in that moment, was a moment of suffering from marriage breaking up. And for many people, you understand, you've had the experience of the hole that seems to be left in your life at such a time. And Anandi was giving Sunday service shortly after the news of this breakup happened in the Ananda community. And what she said that has stayed with me throughout all of these years was, remember when something in your life closes a door, God is there to show you all of the doors that are open. And what I took from that was, don't stay at that closed door, banging on it to open up, but to look for the doors that are open. And an Anandi sharing with all of us was like that. She would give the little bit of advice that would help you to be uplifted and to move forward. So thank you, Anandi, for being a concrete help to so many of us. And we look forward to maintaining that contact. Bless you, we love you, we'll miss you.
I met Anandi the first day she arrived at Ananda, the 1st of April in 1971. She wanted to be there in time for her birthday, which was the next day, the 2nd of April. We talked for hours and discovered that we had a deep and divine friendship. From that moment, our lives were intertwined. There's no doubt that we are twin souls and will remain as such. Thank you, Anandi, for your wonderful example. A life of humble service to God and the Gurus. A life of divine friendship for each one of us. I don't know that I or anyone can say her state of evolution. But I do know this: I can't imagine a life more perfectly lived, and a passing so full of serenity and joy. I deeply feel that she is free. And just as Christians pray to the saints, because they know that the saints continue to help and serve once they are on the other side, I am sure that this is Anandi's desire, to continue her service and to help us. She is a shining light. Let us keep her in our hearts as our shining example.
So we'll just close with a prayer now. Again, thanks to Durga and Bharat who organized this, and thanks to all of you who shared. It was quite moving. I think we all felt it, and I'm so glad this is with us now for posterity. So let's close with a prayer. Let's stand. And as we pray, let's feel Anandi sending her love in God to all of us to guide us ever deeper in our own spiritual life. Heavenly Father, Divine Mother, friend, beloved God, great masters, Jesus Christ, Babaji Krishna, Lahiri Mahashaya, Swami Shri Yukteswarji, beloved Guru, Paramahansa Yogananda, saints of all religions, humbly we bow to you all. O beloved Lord, we thank you for divine friendship, which reflects your unconditional love, which reflects your deep wisdom, and which reflects your joy in all things. May we see behind the veil of separate forms and know that we are all one in thy light. Om. Peace. Amen. So let's leave in silence. If people would like to meditate, and the photo gallery will be available, and you can go over and pray at the little shrine there.